Multimedia.
So proud of them. Samson will be here soon, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. And then this week I am kicking off the launch of my wife's birthday celebrations, which for on Friday.
So you are cutting sword.
My wife turns 65 on Friday.
Wow.
And so on my own, I have decided that it's going to be a week-long celebration.
Amazing.
And today is a kickoff. And the reason why I celebrate her is because it's not easy living with me. And to do that for 37 years, I think she deserves an award.
Absolutely.
So, Bishop, this is just the beginning. Let's see how the week goes.
Wow, Bishop at 65.
Yes, Bishop at 65.
Okay, it will be wild.
It is going to be wild. Yes. We started today, so we'll see.
Wow.
Where else it goes.
Yeah. If you need anybody to control the crowd, or do the gate, bounce at the gate.
I think some of the celebrations will have to go to. The weekend. One of the news that disturbed me was the fact that we have gone for a peace walk.
Oh.
And we crowned the peace walk with violence. We've gone for peace walk. And we crowned the peace walk with violence. And now we are eager to show who was more guilty than the other.
A violent peace walk. What an oxymoron. Anyway.
Winston should not have gone to the north. He should have gone to the south.
He should have gone to knock their heads together and tell them to clap for themselves. Oh boy.
Because one of the things I was taught as a young Christian was to ask in every tricky situation, what would Jesus do? Well, this morning, as part of my If Jesus series, I'm asking, what if Jesus had owned a business and was an employer? Every business has a name, and so what name would Jesus have given his company? Jesus was big on telling everyone that he was doing his father's business, and so his company could easily have been named Father and Son Company, or Father and Son Company. Yes, but Jesus also told Peter and his brother Andrew, quote, "Follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." End of quote. And that would have also been a good name for the company of Jesus, Fishers of Men Enterprise. Now, if you consider the fact that the early Christians used the symbol of the fish to identify themselves, then I think the name of Jesus' company would have been the latter, Fishers of Men Enterprise, with a fish as his logo. Jesus' hiring or recruitment practices would have left a few people scratching their heads. In the first place, he loved to poach people. Now, that in itself would not have been strange, since a lot of companies poach talent from their competitors. But in the case of Jesus, it is the caliber of people he poached that would have left us scratching our heads. He poached Peter and Andrew, and James and John from their respective employers who happened to be their fathers. And he poached Matthew from the Internal Revenue Office, or in the case of Ghana, from the GRA. And he also poached a few of the disciples from John the Baptist. James and John were known to have hot temper, and yet he poached them. Their temper issues were so bad that they were called the sons of thunder.
Cool.
Peter was impulsive and loud, and yet Jesus poached him too. Then there was a person he appointed as his treasurer, Judas, who turned out to be a master at embezzlement and a man who would do anything for money. And then there was Thomas, who refused to believe anything that he could not see or touch. And in a business that depended on faith, he was totally out of place. But he was in there. The makeup of his disciples should have been a recipe for disaster. They were so different in temperament and in backgrounds that they should have been fighting each other. There was even a terrorist among them. He did not interview any of these men. He did not go for the Levites or the priests. These were men who had no background in what he was calling them to do. And yet, these were the men who also managed to pull off the biggest business expansion in history. Jesus' model for building a winning team out of unlikely personnel rests on two pillars. One, sell them your vision clearly and persistently. And two, train and equip them. Working for Jesus demanded total commitment and sacrifice. In one scene in the Bible, Jesus had just dropped what we will call a boom statement that had offended people who then left him. He did not apologize or try to win them back. Instead, he turned to his disciples and asked them, "What about you? Are you also going to leave?" Peter, who had appointed himself the spokesman of the group, or if you like, the union leader, said, quote, "Master, where do we have to go? We have left our families for you." And that is the level of commitment Jesus demanded. He said, quote, "If you want to come after me, you have to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me." He also said, "If you put your hands to the plow and pull back or turn back, you are not worthy to be one of my disciples." So Jesus, the employer, would have driven his staff hard and demanded the most from them. But it would have been fulfilling working for him because he presented a vision that was so big that everyone wanted to be a part of it. The best employers know that people do not work necessarily for money. They work for fulfillment and for significance. And when they know the vision they are working for, they are prepared to sacrifice everything to be part of it. The mission of Jesus succeeded because he equipped these ill-equipped people to be able to carry on the mission after his death. And so, Fishers of Men Enterprise would have shocked every business analyst by going from a local business to a multinational, multi-billion business after the death of the founder, with branches in every corner of the globe. The business of Jesus would have grown based on the quality of his service. Jesus would have offered a kind of service that was unique and critically important, and he would never have compromised on quality. In terms of customer service, Jesus would have won awards. He was deeply concerned about his customers. The Bible tells us that he looked at those who followed him with deep compassion because he saw them as sheep without a shepherd. He told his disciples, "The fields are white and the harvest waiting. Pray the Father to send in more laborers." In other words, he was deeply concerned about meeting the needs of the people, and that is great customer service. His corporate responsibility activities would have been the talk of town. Could you imagine the impact of a company feeding over 5,000 men, not counting the women and children? Jesus, as a businessman, would have brought the West out of his competitors. His service would have been so much more superior to that of his competitors that they would have had no other alternative but to gang up against him and lobby the government to come up with legislation that would have killed his business off. And although he would have always paid his taxes, they would still have managed to convince the government that he was a major national security risk who needed to be neutralized. Jesus would have been one of those businessmen who was always in the news. The media would have loved to interview him, and he would always have given them sound bites. Take this one. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other to him. That is a good sound bite right there, and would have elicited a lot of comments on social media. What about this one? Throw your bread upon the waters, and you shall find it after many days. Again, that would have gone viral with all kinds of comments. But a soundbite that with him saying, "Before Abraham was, I am," that would have attracted all kinds of wholesale commentary and set social media on fire. But unfortunately, the rich and powerful competitors would have been who would have been losing business and market share to him would have bought the media to use his power and influence against him and his business. The most incredible thing about Fishers of Men Enterprise would have been what happens after the death of Jesus, the founder. Fishers of Men Enterprise would have been shut down by the government, and yet the staff would have risked everything to keep the business going. They would have been arrested and punished, and yet right from prison, they would be back to the business. And the more the government went against them, the bigger the business would grow. And that is the one thing about the business of Jesus, the Fishers of Men enterprise, that nobody would have been able to explain or duplicate. And Kojo, that is my presentation today.
I love it. I wouldn't have minded working at Fishers of Men Enterprise. It certainly wouldn't be boring.
No, there would have been no dull moment in that company.
No doubt.
No dull moment in that company at all. And it would have been fantastic. It's just, his human resource practice.
Mm-hmm.
One of it would have been this.
What's that?
He believed in treating people not equally but fairly.
I like that already.
Ghana, we make the mistake of treating workers equally, but not everybody's contribution is the same, Kojo.
Yeah.
So it is important to treat people fairly, but not necessarily equally. And that you'll find that in one of the parables he told about paying workers, and I think it would have been fun. You would have done well working with.
You think so? I wouldn't have got fired.
No. You wouldn't have got fired.
Oh dear.
Kojo, so I'll see you on Thursday.
Absolutely.
And then before I go to our listeners, please go to Roverman Productions website, rovermanproductions.com.
Yeah.
And then take advantage of the plays that we have posted there.
That'll be good. Thank you so much. Stay safe too. Uncle Abel White returns on Thursday with more food for thought. Right now, though, we're gearing up for Samson Ladi Anyenini. We're going to be getting under his skin, learning all we have to learn about him as we celebrate his big win. He is GJA's Journalist of the Year for the year 2020. No mean feat, and we'll be celebrating him right here on the Super Morning Show in just a moment. Right now, though, we're gearing up for the Joy Business Report. It follows these all-important messages.
Hey, Charlie. My network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis.
Charges alone just to send money? That's $10 of cement already, my guy. Listen, bro, you can save money on charges if you move to Vodafone Cash now.
Vodafone Cash? But my network is...
Hey, sending money on that your network, you pay. Sending money on your network to other networks, you pay. But guess what? Sending money on Vodafone Cash is free. Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is also absolutely free.